Use a 5% significance level and the provided computer output to test the pair of hypotheses below. So they give us the hypotheses here. They're saying marital status and religious affiliation are independent or unrelated versus marital status and religious affiliation are dependent or related. So they're basically seeing if there's some relationship between your religion and whether you're married or divorced. Okay. So when you look at the output, they give us the table of values that we have above, but they provide all the expected values right underneath all the observed values that were provided in the table. So that's really nice, right? And then from there, not only do they give us all the expected values, but they go ahead and use those expected values to come up with their chi-squared test stat. They tell us the degrees of freedom for that test stat, which is really nice, right? And they give us the test stat and the p-value. So we have everything we need to test the hypothesis here. So we have HOHA, and then from there, they've done the data step. They've come out, calculated all the expected values. They've come up with our test stat. I'm just going to write that test stat out here real quick. The test stat, they say, is 7.1355. Now, you could compare that against a critical value because we have the degrees of freedom of 4, but what we're going to do instead is actually just use the p-value they gave us. The p-value from the problem right next to that test stat is equal to 0.1289, it says. Now, if we look at a 5% significance level and we compare that, we're going to say, okay, 0.05, which is alpha. When we compare this, we see the p-value is larger than alpha. Whenever that happens, whenever the p-value is large, we do not reject. So we're going to say do not reject HO. Do not reject HO, and therefore do not support HA. Do not support HA. And if you think about that pair of conclusions, what we're saying here then is that we can't reject the idea that they're independent or unrelated. And so it seems like, regardless of your religious affiliation, it does not seem to affect your likelihood of being divorced or married in the first place. All right, so that's essentially the results of the problem. So you can see how nice it is to have the computer output, right? They provide the p-value so we don't even have to go look up a critical value. If you did want to look up a critical value, though, you have that degrees of freedom 4. You can use that along with the alpha of 5% to get your critical value. You can compare it against this test stat. Where do they get the degrees of freedom 4? Remember that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns here. If you take away 1, you get 4, and you multiply that by the number of rows minus 1. Well, there are only 2 rows. If you take away 1, you just get 1. So it's 1 times 4, and that's how they get that degrees of freedom. So everything here is really great, and we end up with the conclusion for our hypothesis. And that's it.